going to start our study with the book Opening Doors with Faith. Be at perfect peace. Do not strain to understand that which is not for your understanding. When I wish to convey something to you, it will be done without effort. For I will throw the light of truth onto it. It will be revealed to you, and you will be left in no doubt as to be the meaning of it. When I say that life is effortless, that is exactly what I mean. There is far too much strain and effort in life. How can you hope to be at peace when you are straining and striving all the time? Let my peace, which passes all understanding, infill and enfold you. For when you are at peace within, you reflect peace without, and all those souls you meet will feel that peace. Let nothing disturb or distress you. Simple, know that all is in my hands, and all is very, very well. So lift up your heart in deep love, praise and gratitude, and go forth this day at peace.
As we are gathering in this ambient, as children of God, as brothers and sisters in humanity, as beings who are essentially good, beings with light and beings with love. All of us, incarnates and disincarnates, on the roads or pathway of evolution. In this ambient, which has been prepared by the benefactors who anticipated us, helping all of us in these moments of study about the natural laws, where our focus today will be on hopes and consolation, helping us to strengthen the hope within in our existences, in our experiences, as we carry on evolving, as we carry on progressing. In the teachings of the Enlightened Spirits that have been brought to humanity, which we are studying, we find consolation in understanding better our experiences, all trials or challenges. Also understanding that is so natural in the state where we find ourselves currently, to face challenges, which means experiences which we asked for or attracted in order for us to expand our minds and hearts in goodness. We ask the blessings of the superior spirits upon every and each one of us here. We ask the blessings of Jesus. May you shine your light upon every and each one of us. And may you involve us all with the blessings of your love as we start our study under your name. So be it. Welcome everyone as we carry on our studies, as always, as immortal beings as we are, students, all of us learning and progressing. We carry on studying the chapter where we finished last week, which is the Spirit's book, the fourth part in the chapter Hopes and Consolations. Hopes and Consolations helps us to understand a lot of our present life as immortal beings, not someone who was just born here and lives and dies, and consolations, understanding more the natural laws and experiences in life. So we are under the sub-item Antipathetic unions, which we have been reflecting last week. What do we understand now for us to carry on about antipathetic unions? Do they exist? Yes. And why do they still exist within our level of evolution? Because we still are quite on the beginning of our journey. So much so that we are all learning within the planet trials and expiations. So why exist antipathetic unions?
I think it's due to the hardening within our hearts.
Correct?
We long for things for us, and the ego overcome upon our wishes for others. And we can only think of ourselves and the way we want things. And then when we unite with someone else, we truly want to achieve things for us and be loved and be cared, and we look upon that person with some expectations that they can't really fulfill us with. And so I think within the living and relating to that person, we discover we don't find the things we thought we would. And then it becomes...
Then we react.
Yes.
And we react is not because of the behavior or limit of the other which we are living with, but because of our own limitations within which we are learning are based on pride and selfishness. Yes? So now we are learning and we choose to, within the antipathetic unions that we may see amongst people, not only couples, we choose now to transform them into what? Sympathetic unions, yeah? Because we are here to train ourselves to be fraternal with each other, isn't it? Okay. So in that way we carry on today. And on the question 940. Frau Denise, would you like to read that?
Yes. Isn't the lack of sympathy between persons destined to live together also a source of suffering that is all the more bitter because it poisons their entire existence?
Okay, let's explore the question. How do we understand it today? What comes to our mind when we heard or read the question 940? Isn't the lack of sympathy between persons destined to live together also a source of suffering that is all the more bitter because it poisons their entire existence? So how could we reframe the question with our own words?
Isn't the lack of willing to see the other position, to see through the other one's eyes, what makes it more painful to be colleagues, to live together?
Okay.
I think that's what was asking.
Yes.
Because once we choose to put ourselves in the other person's place and see things through in a different way, then things change and we change the way we act, and we don't react. We start acting because we're not expecting something to come, but we focus on giving, on producing something. So we're working together instead of pointing.
Yes, so instead of using in a wrong way the excuse because the other is not friendly with me, so that makes the challenge in the relationship, as they say it here, we are all invited to focus within and see what are our difficulties within and choose to overcome them in relation to the other person as the other person is. And in that way, we are growing, and that makes the whole difference how we feel within and how we can also relate with the other outside. Does that make sense? So let's learn with the Enlightened Spirits what they say. They say, very bitter indeed. Yes. Why is it very bitter indeed to live with someone who is not sympathetic with us? Why do they say in that? It's the answer from the Enlightened Spirits. Very bitter indeed. Let's stay just with that first part. Why is it bitter?
Because you still doesn't love each other.
Could we say it's bitter for the one who is experiences that, isn't it? And why is it so bitter for us? Would I be right in saying when we say because of through our lack of self-love? Because then what predominates within us is pride and selfishness and all the vices that go along with that. Vanity and arrogance and these kind of children of pride and selfishness, let's say. So very bitter because we are very short in terms of developing virtues, or we haven't developed them very, very little, let's say. This is why it's felt so bitter. But yet we all need to go through with all of those that we harmed somewhere in the way, and now they come back in our existence, or we asked for them to be with us once more, because we want to promote ourselves. Now that we have the knowledge, it helps us. So when we are in these situations, the invitation is to bring the focus back to us and to promote us within virtues. Which kind of virtue do we need to develop in terms of making this enlightened experience less bitter? Acceptance. I think the first thing that we need to do is responsibility for ourselves for what we feel, because those who are with us that is so challenging in the past, we caused them pain. So through irresponsibility, now bringing the focus back, we learn to be responsible, which is the interior autonomy, and making a difference now. And then with responsibility, I think it would help us to start to be humble. Because without humbleness, very difficult, we can accept the limits of others. And then we go through accepting self and others. What else? Persistence in training the goodness within, because we won't get it right all the time. But allowing ourselves that and accepting ourselves that we do mistakes, but doesn't matter, is part of learning. Let's stand up and let's carry on. Patience, I think, is very important. Tolerance towards ourselves and others is also important. Internal mental discipline, because we will be dealing with our old belief systems. When they say very bitter indeed, that means that we are carrying very bitter belief systems and therefore emotions, isn't it? And we also need to become aware of them and restructure them.
Yeah, we feed the illusions, we feed every time, every day. Our expectations of everything, others are too high, above what one can achieve, even of ourselves. Mm-hmm. And with these beliefs and this way of seeing things, we are not open for failure. Mm-hmm. We're not open for simplicity, mm-hmm. to be simple, but as I said, to be humble, mm-hmm. to accept, to understand, mm-hmm. to give it in one more step. Mm-hmm. We always expecting, we always wishing, wanting. Yes. And until we don't stop that and calm down.
So would it be right in saying, Frau Denise, in that way we are learning what the gospel invites us to do, to present the other face? Mm-hmm. Is that making sense? What do we understand about presenting the other face? When we are mistreated, which can happen, this is why so bitter, because in the past we also did that, and now it's coming back through the law of cause and effect. So present to the other face means now choosing consciously to do good, even when others do bad to us. Because we do understand through the laws of cause and effect that in the past we also harmed us and harmed others. So now we are granted the possibility to be back again, to train ourselves in developing goodness. Does that make sense? And then we carry on. However, it is usually one of those misfortunes of which you yourselves are the main cause. What do we understand about that? So it's bitter because of us, as we just were going through and explaining, because of our shortcomings, our limitations, which are based or rooted in selfishness and pride. Once we choose now to develop humbleness and charity, as we are always invited, which means to learn to present to other face, when whatever comes from the outside to us, doesn't matter for whom, that we choose now to be loyal to ourselves and develop the goodness within, which means developing the virtues. Yes, in that way we feel more centered, we feel more calmer as we go through the experiences, understanding that we cannot run away forever. Sooner or later we need to face ourselves. It's not facing others, it is facing ourselves. And others who are part in our existence, they are divine instruments helping us to activate and awake the divine within us. Yeah? Now, in the first place, simply because your laws are at fault, do you believe that God obliges you to live with those you dislike? Moreover, in such unions, you almost always seek more to satisfy your pride and ambition, rather than to enjoy the happiness of mutual affection. Thus, you suffer the natural consequences of your prejudice. What do we learn now here? By the enlightened spirits, in relation to relationships or partnerships that sometimes can be very challenging for us while we are learning on earth.
Most times we don't want to be responsible for our actions and we want to blame someone or make someone else's something else's responsibility to do our job. So we blame life, we blame God, destiny, husband, parents, whoever we can. So it's their responsibility to do something. I can't do anything. It's my genes. I can't change my DNA, so it's in my blood. That's why I'm like this. And that makes it very hard for us to break it through, to keep this set of mind. Because until we don't look at us within the power we have within and do the first step to break through this, we lose time. We beat it to ourselves, we beat it to other people. We fight a thought that is not necessary. We waste energy and time, and we get tired.
Yes.
And then I think the sooner we realize we have the opportunity, and we just need to look for the way, even if we don't know how, but we keep looking, it will appear, we will find.
We keep willing to find, because we need to activate the willpower in order to find out what it is. Yes, correct. And what came to my mind while we were talking? What do we need to develop to choose to free ourselves from the ego's power, which is the resistance, which makes things very bitter? What do we need to develop in order to free from that power and develop the real power? Would I be right in saying courage? We need to learn to be encouraged, to be willing to do to find out what I came to do. The courage to be willing to change what is aching within. If I realize that I'm just asking for somebody else or blaming somebody else, so developing the courage to look within myself so that I find the cause within. Once we find the cause, the roots within, then also through the courage, to the efforts, then we can root it out.
Yeah. Because once we think that courage is acting with the heart,
Yeah.
then yes, courage. Because it takes courage to look at yourself, to show your true insights,
Yes.
and to accept others. It takes a lot of courage.
Would I be right in saying, Claudine? Yes, it does, and we still are quite weak in that. But at the same time, when we analyze what you just referred previously, that when we react and we go against and we feel the bitterness, and the enlightened spirits are telling us, are we not using much more vital energy than developing courage?
Yeah.
Because in order to sustain the negative patterns, the vices, we use much more energy that we waste instead of choosing to develop the virtues.
Yeah.
So that is not clever on our side, isn't it?
Today I read a phrase that keeps popping to my mind now with this, because one guy was saying to the other one, he was saying, "You every day you're happy, you easygoing, how you keep this life up?" And he said, "I made a very wise decision a while ago. I decided I won't fight, I won't convince anyone of the right or wrong. I will just go with them as they decide, and whenever possible, I show them the way by example." And the guy started saying, "But this is not possible. You can't just agree with everyone, whatever they say, however they say, just not to have arguments, just not to have a battle." And then he said, "Yes, you are right." So it's like you make peace within yourself,
Yes.
and you can accept the other where they come from. You don't get angry, you don't get bitter, you don't get disapproving,
Yes.
and things go on easier.
Yes.
The thing is to hold yourself in that peace.
That is what we need to develop, the inner awareness and the courage that we relate with us within that reference. We are so focused on the other, then we get lost within ourselves. But the wisdom is to realize that is the way, to focus within and choosing to hold us on daily basis, because the challenges will be presented. We need them as tests so that we learn to be loyal and honest to us. And in that way, we are weakening the ego's responses.
The thing is, it is hard for us on a daily basis. When we are faced with our roots, we having a situation with someone and then our bottoms are triggered. And even though we try to bring our focus and what we want to do, still most times we give into our passions, into our instincts, and we lose ourselves, we lose energy, we lose time, we be bitter. We
become more bitter. Yeah. Yes.
And then to do the way back again, and every day, it's not every day, it's just like every hour, every morning.
All the time, let's put it like that, very straightforward. All the time, life gifts us with those possibilities. But also having said that, yes, we wouldn't be right in saying that it's not challenging. It is challenging, but on the other side, it is possible for us. So as more as we learn to convince us in terms of understanding that we are immortal beings and we sooner or later free ourselves from the physical body, then we are in the spiritual reality. Later on, we have the need to come back to reincarnate through a new body, but we always will carry on in highlighting ourselves. And once we understand that, that also helps us to boost the initiative to do better today, because I will be always living with myself. So, of course, it's wise for us to choose to develop a better company in relation to others when we are, because that is the other is the possibility for us to promote us in goodness. And also what helps us sometimes is different for different people, is helping us within the eyes of Spiritism, which brings the teachings of the universal laws, understanding that the other in front of us or part of our settings is a child of God as we are also, and is loved by God as much as we are also loved, even if they may be doing wrong. So that also helps us to convince us and bring ourselves back to our essence. So each time when we train our minds and hearts in accordance to the natural laws in the universe, we immediately will feel more calmer and we have more strength to deal with our own ego, because we still have those aspects to re-educate ourselves. Okay, anything to add? No? So we move on then to the next one, which is the 948. And the question is, but in such cases, isn't there almost always an innocent victim? What is the question about? Do we still remember the previous one? Let's go back. Isn't the lack of sympathy between persons destined to live together also a source of suffering that is all the more bitter because it poisons their entire existence? And now the following question is, but in such cases, isn't it almost always an innocent victim? How do we understand the question? Isn't there almost always an innocent victim? What do we think? Do we think that others are victims, or we are victims of others, or we are victims of ourselves? So when we refer to the previous answer, when the spirits say, let's look back to understand this one, when they start on the top there, however, it is usually one of those misfortunes of which you yourselves are the main cause. Can you see? We created these difficulties within us while we were living with the other child of God. Not always in this existence, but from the previous existence. We need to depart our reasoning as immortal beings that we have been living amongst each other probably centuries and centuries and centuries, as André Luiz tells us. And then we come back and we repeat the same patterns. We are almost exhausted. So now we are here again. And then when we follow this question, is there always an innocent victim? No? Why not? Hello? Why is there not an innocent victim? But we think sometimes that we are innocent victims, isn't it?
We think about others, like, oh, what they did to deserve that, what I did to deserve this, why me? Why is happening to that person? Or especially when it's kids. We think that for kids, nothing they cannot suffer no consequences of anything because they haven't done anything yet. Mm-hmm. And we don't think previously what has been coming. Yes.
Then when we see the children in that frame of mind, it means that we are looking at the experiences from a materialistic viewpoint. Gosh, the child, little child, How can that be? But within Spiritism, we learn that the little child is an old being in terms of existence. The little is only the physical body. And the tendencies that the little child brings are also old. Yeah? So there is no innocent victim, as we go through now. Then the Enlightened Spirits tell us. Dani, would you like to read it for us, please?
Yes.
Very loud.
Yes, and for that one, it's a heavy expiation. However, the responsibility for such unhappiness will fall upon the one who has caused it. If the light of truth has reached the soul of the victim, faith in the future will provide consolation. Besides, to the degree that such prejudices are weakened, the causes of these private misfortunes will disappear.
Okay, let's explore together. Let's go with parts, then it's easier. Remind the question, but in such cases, isn't there almost always an innocent victim? Yes, but for that one, it is a heavy expiation. However, the responsibility for such unhappiness will fail upon the one who has caused it. How do we understand that part? Why?
It comes to my mind the saying that says the not the evil, but the bad should come, but from those who comes would be heavy the responsibility.
Mhm.
It's what comes to me. I don't know in English what's saying, but I remember it in Portuguese.
So the evil, let's say, and also the bad, is necessary in the world, considering the level of evolution where we are. But but the responsibility is for those who really cause it. So when we say that the evil is still necessary, it doesn't mean that it's within the natural laws in the universe. It still is necessary because us as immortal beings who are evolving throughout centuries, who are again on this full earth, still bring those shadows within. So it is necessary because through the law of society, we are, but it's not for us to reinforce them. It's for us now, once they emerge, to realize that that is our own history, and the other child of God is doing me a favor to bring that out. we redirect how we see experiences when we take responsibility for ourselves.
Because when some situation happens and we get to know them, it's not directly involved, and then we want to take justice up on our hands and do things and make things happen or prevent them or whatever the reason is, but that doesn't bring us to work inside us with what we need to work on, within the power, within the dictating of others' lives, within not loving, but using the ego to overcome on others.
Yeah.
So I think here when it's bringing that to us is to think of the bigger picture of whatever has happened. There is a reason for that. So it not be me to cause more pain, or to bring upon justice on anyone, because I'm not here to judge, I'm here to learn. So I'm here to accept and to understand whoever did whatever they did is also a child of God, is also my brother or sister, and I can't just wish them bad. I need to understand they are in that situation for now, for the moment, and they will evolve. So I need to take care of the one who has been the victim in this way here, and not be bad or like
not take part,
from the
not take sides. That is precisely when we bring ourselves to the center, and the center is the core of ourselves, which is love. As more as we learn to develop that, we don't take parts. Because when we take Jesus as our master and guide as it is, he never had preferences. He respected and loved all of them. And for us, that we are not evolved spiritually on that level, it is learning what good can I do in any situation that I'm in, because that is the main point in the experiences that are part of our lives. Because we didn't came back to make things worse, to complicate, or to expand our shadows. We came back to extend and expand the virtues within. And that requires self-awareness on a daily basis. Because we are not here to change anyone unless ourselves. We are not here to judge because we don't have that morality within, because the natural justice, which is God's justice, takes care of everyone and everything. So when we do our part, which we have mentioned previously, usually it is opportunity for us to develop, to show the other face, which is all the bad that may come to us. Quite often what we see as bad is good from a higher perspective, because we still are children and we see things in a very restricted way. For instance, if someone, let's say, doesn't like us, but when we look at the experience from a transpersonal perspective, do we have the courage to ask ourselves, perhaps, what did I do to that being? For that being have that feeling towards me. And why I'm here now with these feelings? In order to practice goodness within with sincerity. If the other can see that, if the other can accept it or not, that is not relevant. But it is to promote us within. Is that making sense?
It's very hard for us to look at ourselves in this way, to open up, to accept. We can have hopes, but okay, 21, and or we can have been dishonest with someone or ourselves in the mind, and that now what we suffer is the consequences of our own actions. I remember now when we studied one of the books that there was an example of a man that in a previous life he was very fast in his slaves. The people kept working for him. He put them to work on the outside, through the rain, through the storms, through things, and many people died and was always ill because of that, and he had no compassion. And then in his life, he chose to be a guard. And every time he had to work, he had to do walking outside. It was always cold and raining. And then he developed some illness. And he was thinking to himself, why do I have this? There is maybe a reason. And his family, close, and couldn't understand that. And they were like, how can you be so patient within this situation? Why you? You're such a good person. You want to do good to everyone. Why this would happen to you? And he'd say, there must be a reason. I don't know, but there must be. And then when he was passing out, he was shown this. So he understood that no one needed to come and do to him what he was doing to others, but life in itself took care of that. So it helped me to understand that I don't need to be the one bringing justice to anyone. Life
will take care of everyone. When we stand back and just take care of ourselves, and we connect with the higher spheres, and we choose humbly to learn through the experiences and let others go, then we are freeing ourselves from ourselves. We are promoted. But it's interesting the example that you gave, Vlad, because we read that sometimes in the literature, some spirits, they are already more aware of what they came to rescue here on earth. Therefore, they also, through experiences that they went through, they have greater humbleness. And then you can see easily in this example that he has already developed some sort of resignation. Although on the conscious level he couldn't understand, but he knew on the subjective level there must be a cause. That was the inner wisdom giving him signals. But that is what he achieved already in terms. So when we have the opposite, when we get angry or we revolt ourselves in relation to the experience, that means that perhaps we are on the right track, in the right experience, but the ego still is very strong and we may miss the opportunity.
It's sad to recognize that happens more often among us.
Yeah. Anything else that you take from this answer? We went up to the causit. If the light of truth has reached the soul of the victim, faith in the future will provide consolation. What do we take from this phrase? If the light of the truth has reached the soul of the victim, faith in the future will provide consolation. How do we understand this phrase now?
I have a question, because you said that we are not victims, but then they said that there is some possible victims. I didn't understand that bit.
But in such cases, isn't there almost always an innocent victim? It depends what we understand, because on a deeper level, we aren't victims of others, we are victims of ourselves. But if you look perhaps from one existence, that could be a different response. But when we look from the ongoing journey, there is no victim. We all, through thinking, feeling, and doing throughout existence, we are activating and interacting with the natural laws. And there could be, when they say yes, and a heavy expiation, it depends where we are in the journey of learning. Perhaps I could come back with someone that I asked to help the spirit. Not that I'm in debt with him, and yet to help him. And that can be a great challenging experience also for me. So it depends. We have a complex way of addressing experiences. Is that making sense?
Because I think what you're asking is if there is no nonsense victim, why he said yes? He said yes, but not to the
He gave conditions.
yes, it's a victim of someone, or it's a victim of one's own self. That's why it's expiation. Like if I have done something in a previous life and I asked for the opportunity to redeem myself from that, I've done, and something may happen to me that in the eyes of the material world, that I'm being a victim of that.
There wouldn't be reasons here.
Yeah, if I only look at it through the material eyes, I will think I'm a victim because there's no reason in this lifetime for this to be happening to me.
You can see, yes.
But then I look back, I have done that. Like if I work for the government, I'm a teacher, the Raul example.
Yes.
You're working for the teacher government,
the schools,
and you don't get paid for ages. And then, I'm working, I'm doing my best, and I'm not getting the money. But then in my previous life, I told someone I was not working. So this life, I don't have nothing.
I don't have reasons
for this.
Yes.
But previously, I did.
So much. Yes, so much. They carry on here. Can you see also when they say, however, then they are complementing it. The responsibility for such unhappiness will fall upon the one who has caused it. Sorry?
I don't know if it's right, but the way I see it, sometimes you can attract a situation, not through the law of cause and effect, but just to become stronger.
Yes, to grow.
So it's not because you did something to deserve that, but you just attract that because you want to strengthen something.
You want to grow in morality or in ethics. You want to expand your virtues within. So we don't evolve only, that's a very good point, we don't evolve only through the law of cause and effect. We also evolve through the law of love. So sometimes, and it's quite often for us, we still come back to redo what we did in the wrong way in the past. But also, the spirits come back, and all of us can choose that if it's allowed by the Enlightened Spirits, that we are under new experiences that we attract in order to grow more ethically, to strengthen ourselves through the virtues. And that has no cause through the cause and effect in the past. There is a new experience that we may have asked for, that the spirits may have suggested for us, the enlightened ones. If you go through that, then you will really promote more. We are innocent, yes?
But when we are there discussing this, yes, I already learned that, I know that by heart. I can do it, I'm going to go back and I'm going to do it, I'm going to be an example. And then we come back here, and we feel things that we receive different eyes, and we go like, should I do that? Nice opportunity, I should take it.
Yes, the difficulty for us is always when we have more easiness to listen to the ego than the self. Because following the aspects of the ego doesn't require that much effort because we condition the other ourselves. But choosing the self options, it requires effort to train the new values that we can. But it is wise to follow that. It doesn't matter if no one follows. Let us follow individually. Because sooner or later we will be out of this physical body, out of the school earth, and we will be dealing with our own consciousness. Yeah? Is that clear, Barbara? Yeah. Carry on now then. If the light, let's go back to the phrase that I mentioned. If the light of truth has reached the soul of the victim, faith in the future will provide consolation. What do we understand about the light of truth? And has reached the soul of the victim. How is that? What is first the light of the truth?
For me, it's forgiveness. It's understanding, acceptance of that. It's not the other who caused me anything, or not to want revenge, or have this things and feelings for the other, but work that within me and be able to let go of it, not to keep that bitterness in me.
Okay, could we also say the light of the truth, which is the knowledge of the natural laws in the universe? As much as we understand the natural laws, that means enlightens us, and then they say, reach the soul of the victim. How does the light of the truth reach the soul of the victim? Let's imagine that we are victims. Just imagine. So how does the light of the truth or the natural laws in the universe reach our souls?
Through our conscience.
Through our conscience. For instance, here we are reflecting about the natural laws in life. When we study the Spirit's book, as we are already in the stage where we are reflecting about the natural laws of life. And then we may choose to accept them because it makes meaning to us. And then we choose gradually to behave accordingly. And in that way, we are affecting ourselves emotionally, reintegrating it and expanding our consciousness.
Yeah.
Yes. Because then we become more, it becomes more easier for us to forgive, as you mentioned. It becomes more easier for us to let go. And it becomes more easy for us to take responsibility for us and not to blame anybody else. It becomes easier for us to be loyal to us, understanding that when they say here, faith in the future. Because whatever is challenging now, but if I keep loyal to myself, I'm having the faith in the future, which is the consideration of life after life. Then I know that if I don't have it now, later on I will have the merit of that effort that I put in and be loyal and be just and be sincere.
And to have that internalized, be it because of the cause and effect, or be it because I wanted to exercise that virtue and become stronger in it. Because when he says, it's like when you're asking about the Spiritism, is to face the truth in whatever age, with reason. Because once we realize the truth, as Jesus said, it set us free, it liberates us, because there is no need anymore for any explanation, for any needness.
Yeah.
It becomes complete. Whatever, even if I still having that emptiness or that hole within me, but I understand the purpose. I understand why I'm going through this, and the reason. And if I achieve that, then it's fulfillment.
Yes, that is what they mean consolation. We feel consoled once we understand a bit, at least, about the natural laws in life. That will help us to understand the experiences that we're going through. And also will help us to understand what is my right position within the experiences that I'm facing. And if we position according to God's will, surely we will have consolation in the present, and if not in the present, surely in the future. The future could be the next day, the next month, or the next existences for us. And then they carry on. Besides, to the degree that such prejudices are weakened, the causes of these private misfortunes will disappear. That comes to us here. How do we weaken our illusions, I would say? Is that what they're trying to say within lines? Or what comes to us?
Yeah, I think even though it's still, for me at least, very on the horizon, any of these achievements and fulfillments, the more that I exercise it, the more it will weaken my instincts, weaken my passions, and the way I react. As more as I will start acting and focusing and exercising, even if I feel it's still little, it's still not what I want, but the more I exercise it, the more I will become stronger.
Yes. It's also important for us who are at the beginning of our training in terms of conquering the virtues, that we don't feel that it's not worthy the little exercise and the little training, but give value to them because they are relevant. Each new experience will add experience to us. Can we move on? Yeah, let's move on to the next one. Now we are entering a new subtitle. We still are within the Spirit's book, the part 4, chapter Hopes and Consolations, But we start from now onwards, question 941. We study about the fear of death. Are we all alive? Let's start from where we are, so perhaps we can depart. What do we understand within our understanding so far, the fear of death? As we departed, we are all immortal, we are studying the natural laws, why we still have the fear of death?
Yeah, that's a good question I ask myself most daily. With all the knowledge, with all the understanding of the spiritual life and the experiences, why this fear is so within all of us all the time. Sometimes we think that life will be too harsh, too difficult. But then once you're thinking, if I die today, and then the desperation comes in, it kicks in, all the worries, the ones I'm going to leave behind, or if someone I love is going to depart before me, and that anxiety fulfills inside, and you think, oh no. Then why? If we know we are...
Why? That's my question. Why?
Why is this still...
My question, Frau Denise, will be, do we know it in which dimension? Mentally, only here we're talking. If we have that emotional response, that hasn't been downloaded yet. We haven't studied enough to convince ourselves. Why not? What is between here, the mental and emotional? Why are we still holding on if we are studying about that we are immortal beings? And so on and so forth. Why are we still there feeling? What is holding back? Attachment to people or things. And attachment means what if you go deeper down to the roots? Do we have an idea? Guess. That is generally specific. Selfishness. Is that what we learn? We become attached because we are selfish. Mine. No one is, we don't belong to anyone. We need to change that. Real love has nothing to do with the physical body. Real love is freedom, it's not pain. What constrains is not love. It needs to be addressed. It is more to do with the passions, as the spirits referred to in a previous question in the Spirits book. Real love is inner freedom. If we train ourselves that God's will is above mine, then if I surround myself, I will not fear it. Because I understand, not only cognitively, but emotionally, that His will is always for the best for everyone.
I think the difference is about the fear of death, is about what we come to do. And we are aware, unconscious, that we didn't do anything, so we are feared because we know
that we will be facing ourselves.
Yes.
And looking in the eyes, and we learn by the spirits, we have some notes there. Yes, so there are different reasons. So one is attachment through our selfishness. And selfishness causes pain and despair. Love doesn't. Obedience to God does not cause pain. But one of the reasons could be unconsciously we know what we came to do and we didn't. And it's written upon go back, oh my God, and we. So it's better to do on a daily basis what we do. There is another reason. What other reasons do we have that we may be fearful of that? Attachment, not fulfilling my duties, attached to matter. I don't want to leave earth because of my passions and my pleasures. Do a lot of spirits suffer with that? Oh my God. If I'm attached to my belongings, to my properties, thinking that I need to let go that, not knowing who, that causes inner pain. Again, all the examples that we may refer come back to lack of self-love and lack of resignation in relation to God. Because we are not from earth, no one belongs to us, we don't belong to anyone, we are just journey together to help, and when it comes to time to go, go. God bless you. Natural law is not to stay here, it's not to hold on, letting go. If the other who is part of my life is going through experience, help through prayer, through faith, there is nothing by chance. Everything is to promote the soul according to God's laws. when we have that inner wisdom, the heart developed in that little level, we can be instruments in helping also the one who is dying, the benefactors who are helping. Let's go back and understand what is death.
The departure from here, for me, because it is so hard to work on the subject, I try to bring, whenever the question comes into my mind, or the proximity of anything to me, then I try to bring the teachings of the Spiritism to help me to digest that as much as I can. Because one of the first questions I ask myself is, this is not love, this is passion. Where is this passion coming from? Where is my ignorance within my relation with this person or within the world? If the case is me dying, when I get frightened of dying soon and leaving the ones I love, then I think, but if I know that God is looking after them and I'm being free to come back at another time, why I want to stay, what is my passion here, where I'm attaching myself in here, what do I need to let go in here? And when it's others, that feeling is so intense, and then I ask, this is not love, what is the passion here? What is this attachment in here? To try to understand that, or at least to convince myself that they will be free from this, from everything here, they will go to better things that I can meet them later. So to try to console myself now, understanding that we will be together again. Yes. And this is not just here, I'm here, and most of the people I love is miles and miles away. And once we are going from here, we're going to be more close, we're going to be more in touch with each other.
If you
so why am I afraid of that?
But this has a lot to do with control. When we study about the fears, it has to do with control from the ego. I don't want to let go. I want things my way. No. We go through and remind ourselves. And isn't it interesting that this sub-item, the fear of death, is under the chapter Hopes and Consolations. It's very important, even as ourselves, when we are free from the physical body, we are studying about this topic. If we still may be suffering because of the death of someone, we may all learn that no one dies. We don't die. We live forever. Or dear ones that are close to us, we can carry on loving them. And the new love frees us within, knowing that God is protecting and guiding everyone and all of us in any situation where we are. So it's quite consoling for our hearts, especially for mothers. Sometimes we may be thinking and feeling that they lost a child. No one loses anyone. We are immortal beings. Sooner or later, we will be together again, according to God's laws, not when we want. Again, we are constantly in this item invited to learn to submit ourselves towards God's will. In that way, there will be no sufferings. There will be hope and faith in the natural laws, in the love of God, that everything is following a natural order to promote everyone in a unique way. Is that making sense? Okay, let's carry on then on the first question. Thais, would you like to read it for 941?
The worry over death is highly vexing to many people. Why such worry if they have the whole future in front of them?
Okay, let's explore the question. How do we understand the question now? If we were to say it according to our own words. What is the main point of this question? Do we understand what vexing means? Do we?
No, I don't know what vexing means.
So we don't understand the question. Do you know what it means? Please help us. What? Be angry, be distressed? Okay, now distress, angry. The worry over death is highly distressed, yeah? To many people, is that right? Oh, the majority, yeah? Why such worry if they have the whole future in front of them? The second part is really important, isn't it? Let's see what the Enlightened Spirits are telling us. We start bit by bit. It is wrong to have such apprehension, but what do you expect? Since early on, people have been persuaded that there is a hell and a heaven, and that they will most likely to go to the hell, because they have been taught thought that whatever belongs to the realm of nature is a mortal sin for the soul. What do you understand so far? That teaching, which all of us learn for sure throughout, not in this existence from previous one, can that cause distress and anguish? Yeah, because the majority of teaching, if you look back from the way that we understand now, is that not focus a lot on the hell. And it's still complementing the hell that you go there and you are burning in the fire forever. It's even worse. Who wants to die? Yeah, so it's so consoling, the teachings of the enlightened spirits they are bringing to humanity to free this distress and anguish within ourselves. There is no hell and heaven in such a place there and there. It's only within ourselves. But we don't die. We keep on alive. Anybody else? Otherwise, we carry on. Thus, when they grow up, and if they have any reason at all, they can no longer accept such a belief and become atheists or materialists. It is thus that they are led to believe that nothing exists beyond the present life. As for those who persist in their childhood belief, they fear the eternal fire that must burn them without destroying them. What comes to your mind, sir, with this second part?
Or where you believe through your whole existence or life here, existence, that you're gonna burn in hell if you don't do what you're supposed to do, and usually we don't, so you're always blaming yourself, or you person that start questioning those beliefs and you can't find any answer, and then that's where it says where you became atheist, so you don't believe in anything, because you kind of, okay, what they taught me is a lie, so I choose not to believe in anything, and then I become materialist. Of course, there's another option that is looking for other answers, and
of course, it's easy for us to fall back, let's say, to materialist or atheist, but there are always other options. But when we, let's say, are already a bit weak, spiritually speaking, and then we are within those pathways, and then it doesn't make sense what is presented to us anymore, and then we may just let go as it is, and then just go and carry on as a materialistic life is. But we always can choose to go ahead in our research, to choose other experiences. Well, if that spiritual pathway is not giving me answer to me, it doesn't make sense. Let's choose and try another one. Because we know that the different religions or the different schools of spirituality, they are teaching the same thing, but in different degrees for different levels of evolution.
Sometimes I think it's even our rebellion way, and it's easy for us as well just to deny something and go to another extreme instead of searching for other answers. And also it's easy for us to just rebel against that and become.
That is a very good point. I think that happens most of the time, because if you consider that we in this existence are dealing with our values and desires and patterns for centuries and centuries of existence, then if I face that and it doesn't make sense to me and I just go the other way, materialist way, it is somewhere, somehow I have been in those experiences. Yes, so rebelling myself and blaming others because they are not giving me the answers that I want, instead of me carrying on investing in me, which required efforts, I could fall back to my old belief systems.
At the same time, I find that that's the way I think, that having a little bit of fear is good, because it makes me look after myself. Because I think if I wasn't afraid of dying or getting hurt or whatever, I would just live a life full of dangers and suicidal. But so it's good to have a little bit of being careful. I don't think the word is even fear, but being careful for my life, or appreciate the life I have.
I think we go through later on to the questions, because here the fear, when they start, we were focused on fear that brings anguish to us because the lack of understanding or the selfishness or control or whatever it is, or the ignorance. But a certain level of fear in life, which is part of the law of preservation, that is natural. That is natural. That is needed for us to take care of ourselves. But that is very different because that comes from the natural laws, from God. That doesn't cause anguish. The anguish is what is against God's laws. Does that make sense?
I think for me the biggest point here is the responsibility in the acting within what I need to do. Because otherwise I just want the commodity, or I just want to deny
easiest way.
and be lazy and not do what I have to change.
Precisely.
Because it's hard.
That
It
requires
takes effort.
Yes.
It takes, like you said before, it takes courage.
It takes courage to really stood up for ourselves this time and be loyal to ourselves. Because the easiest way is again be dishonest. But we need to somehow invest in ourselves. Everything was prepared for us to come back in that way, for us to promote us now. And we all can do it. Let's invest in ourselves and not give so much excuses anymore. Each time, each moment that we are loyal to us and we do what we ask to do, we actually are coming out stronger in our faith. And therefore we can deal with our experience a bit more in our wisdom. And in that way we are coming to the end today in our studies. And as always, we close our meeting today with our final reflections. As brothers and sisters in humanity, as we all are here, incarnates and disincarnates, in this school of life, presented to all of us as a gift from God, helping us to think for ourselves within the natural laws of life, within God's laws, helping us to understand that every experience has a profound meaning for our own evolution. Whatever we find challenge, may we develop the inner courage to look with honesty. What do I need to learn with that? When we are faced with challenging experiences through the perfections of others, may we develop the courage within to choose to develop the goodness within and around us, understanding that all of us are in a pathway of evolution and responsible for our own self. We are all guided by the enlightened spirits, our friends who love us, who inspire us, who helps us to understand life from above, from a spiritual perspective, that we are immortal beings in the universe, not attached to places, people, or belongings. May we all choose to free ourselves within the love of God, who created us with love in order for us to learn to love, following His willingness, which is always inviting us to be good, to be generous, to be fraternal, to be solidarious, to cooperate with each other as we carry on learning and serving today and always. So